The good news about Maine is we have incredible diversity of species here. And for somebody like me who enjoys being outdoors and learning and studying wildlife, it's just like being a kid in a candy store. There are so many creatures here, so many stories, so many interesting things to learn and observe about them. You know, some of them are mundane, like the raccoons and these guys, but the beauty of a bufflehead, for instance, and the science behind a toad that can exist in extreme environments. We're lucky to have these creatures here. A lot of the creatures in Maine that we know or we're interested in have suffered terribly, sometimes at our hand. In the case of the bats, particularly the little brown bat, about 95% of them were wiped out by a fungus, white nose syndrome. Some of them fortunately resistant and starting to come back, and bat biologists are working to protect the caves, to keep people out of the caves, because we spread the fungus on our boots when we walk from one cave to another. They're starting to come back. I saw a couple in the air over our cabin last summer, and I was pleased to see that. The roseate tern, we nearly wiped them out using the feathers for our hats and for our coats years back. But now with protected islands, we're starting to see more roseate terns. Oysters. Eastern oyster, as you see in the bucket here, flourished along the Atlantic seaboard and were a very important food source for the natives and the Europeans when they first came here. Somebody imported a batch of French oysters without taking them through quarantine, brought in a parasite, and wiped out 98% of the oysters on the eastern seaboard. Fortunately, they're starting to come back, but it's an example of the havoc that mankind can wreak when we decide to. Red-tailed hawks, other raptors, what did we used to do to them? We trapped them, we poisoned them, we caught them any way we could. Lobstermen used to shoot seagulls and birds like that off their boats. Well, fortunately, nowadays, these birds are protected and they're starting to come back in areas that we actually have too many raptors for the number of songbirds. Piping plovers, you've probably read the story of these beautiful little birds on the beaches of southern Maine. They've had a couple of good years of nesting success now, over 100 chicks born, but all it would take is one hurricane at the wrong time to destroy those beaches and the eggs there, and those birds could be in a lot of trouble. There are literally only thousands of them left. Brook trout, we have people that insist on dumping bass and pike and pickerel and other species into these beautiful remote trout ponds and destroying brook trout habitat. We have 95% of the remaining native brook habitat left in the United States. But we have people who insist on ruining it. It's unfortunate. People come to Maine from all over the world to fish for that species. Monarchs are in trouble, of course. If you want to plant one plant in your garden or on the edge of your lawn, put in milkweed, because that's the only plant that they will lay their eggs upon. People are planting it on interstate highways all across the United States now to help them on their migration to Mexico for the winter. Oops, sorry. So the bottom message here for me is, without habitat, we don't have these creatures. The work that's going on in places like this valley to protect big chunks of forest, the rivers, the wetlands, etc., is fundamentally important to protect these species and the habitat they need to exist. And if we lose creatures, if species go extinct, that's a loss for us and for every other species on Earth. I'd like to say thanks to the photographers that let me use some of their great shots. It's always nice to have access to those. And I'd say thank you. My books are available for sale if you're interested. All of the profits benefit conservation and public education. I don't keep any of the funds from the books.